There you go.
Okay. I think we might be live.
We are.
All right. Now, how do I clear out of this? Okay. Sorry, guys. I was trying to do something cool and new and got myself in a, hold on, comments. There we go. I am Jen with Convicted Hearts. If you have a convicted heart, you are in the right place. Tonight, I have the honor and privilege of being here with my sister from another mister, Adrienne Smiley.
Welcome. Hi, everybody. Hi. How's it going? It's so weird to be on this side of the.
It's so weird to be on this side of interviewing.
Salvador.
Yeah, Salvador. We got Salvador, Higher Power. Debbie, how are you? We appreciate you guys. That's right. Cujo.
Hi, Cujo.
Awesome. So how was your day?
It was good. I'm happy it's Friday. Work's been insane, and it's starting to snow here. So, we went from 80 freaking degrees to 32. So it sucks.
Yeah. It's so weird, right? Our weather is almost as bipolar as myself.
Yeah, me too. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Right? Hey, Henry.
Hi, Henry. Hi,
yes.
And how's it going?
Shout out to you guys for tapping in first. Yes. So I was thinking all day, how in the world do I interview the woman that I consider a sister, I look up to, I admire? But then I started thinking, what made you who you are? I know some about you. And a lot of people know your good heart because you've been so wonderful to so many people. But you don't ever give yourself that praise. So allow me to.
You're so sweet. Thanks, Jen. That's really sweet. I do love you like a sister. So Jen and I have definitely built a real bond through our mutual channels. So it's been a real blessing, and I'm super grateful for you. So thank you.
Likewise. I always when I talk to people that are like, how did you get your start? Or how did you, I refer back to, I reached out to Adrienne Smiley. I was in a very bad place, and this isn't about me. I'm just kind of giving a.
No, I think it's great.
I reached out to you during a time that I was in a very dark place. You know that, and I really honestly didn't know if I was going to continue hanging on or not. And you answered. You answered me.
You were the first email that I got, and it was very heartfelt, and I get a lot of emails, and yours really stood out to me, and I was really touched by it, and I could feel what you were saying through your email. And so Jen and I just really we just clicked as soon as we talked, and she had been a mod. Had you been a mod on our channel?
I think shortly after that, maybe, because I was there since, I'm not trying to give myself any praise, but I was there since day one. Hey, shout out Denise, Brenda. Yeah, I remember catching the, I don't know if it was the first interview with Josh.
Yeah, Mitch started on Josh, and then Louie did an interview, but really was really about Mitch, like how we met and all of that stuff. So hi Sling Babe, how are you? So, I think it was after Josh, and you were the first interview that I did. And so but it really spoke to me, and I totally felt your pain, and I just really connected with you, and I'm so grateful for that, because people with social media, Jen and I are the real deal. We talk all the time. We definitely made a connection, and I'm so proud of what you've done, and I told you could do it, and I knew you could, and I'm just really proud of you and what you've done.
Thank you. I would have never believed, how I was in the beginning. I would have never believed that I would do this.
I was like, you can do this. It'll be.
Yeah. Right. So that's right. Thanks to Adrienne, you guys. I followed through with it. That's right.
By the way, thank you, Debbie. That's super sweet of you.
Debbie, that's what's up. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys like a backstory, like kind of how we met. I reached out, Adrienne answered, and I really needed that during that time. So starting from there, going back to you, your own life, where did you grow up? You know, I'm not asking as far back as conception, but you know, where did you grow up? Where are you from?
Well, it is actually interesting because I was born in the 60s. I was born in 1963. And so that was after conception. And I had, so I actually am a product of the 60s. And I actually grew up for the first 3 years of my life on a commune. And
Really?
so if people don't know what that is, I'm kind of a hippie girl at heart. That's like who I am in the core. But so it's where multiple people live. You raise your own food. You live there's multiple moms taking care of multiple kids. And, you know, it was the 60s. So there was like a whole lot of partying going on. And, yeah, of course I don't remember any of that. And I didn't find that really out till much later in life. But yeah, so I was raised in Redwood City. Well, I was born in Redwood City, and then I kind of grew up in the Bay Area. So between Redwood City and Palo Alto, I was raised in kind of a middle income family. I was raised in Palo Alto, which wasn't like it is now. It was like a total normal, a normal town. And you know, I went to the same school when I was in like elementary school. I lived right next door to my school, which was, I thought was super cool when I was that age. But my mom married my stepdad when I was like, I think it was 5. And I call him my dad because he raised me till they divorced when I was like 13. But he was super, super, super strict. Military background, never had kids, always wanted a boy. So I was raised, we were tough. You know, I couldn't have friends over. I think maybe I had friends over like one time, basically. So so that caused me some high nut and below. That's awesome. So I was pretty sheltered, and my dad was super, super strict, and I can't emphasize that enough. So it's really funny because when I see people now are like, oh, you know, I'm super grateful for like the life that my grandkids have. Like, you know, my grandkids have a real beautiful, like, they're not slaves. You know what I mean? And I came from a different thing. Like, you know, children are supposed to be heard, seen and not heard. You know, super, super, really strict. And I hated him. Like, I hated him. Okay. And you know, my mom had some issues before they got married, and so I was with my grandparents a lot. And then when my mom got married, obviously, you know, I was with her. So long story short, super strict, physical. You know, if I got in trouble, I got my ass beat. I mean, it was not, but I was very much like a people pleaser. Like, I didn't want to piss people off. I didn't want to rock the boat.
Okay, so if I can ask real quick, were you either the only child or the oldest child when you say that?
Only.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I was one of brothers and sisters, but I didn't have any. Do you mean so? And I'll get to this later, but I looked a lot different than my grandfather on my mom's side is German. My grandmother was English, and I looked a lot different than I was darker skinned. They used to call me Brownberry. That's what they would call me. And so I looked I looked
Oh,
way,
I hated it, but that sounds super cute.
I looked way different. And I always thought, I used to ask my mom, am I adopted? She's like, no, like no, you just tan more, whatever, then, so cool, whatever.
Nice.
So, when you're raised in a really strict household, like that, I was real shy, you know, awkward, all of that. And so when I got into junior high, our bodies start to change. I kind of grew into myself, and somebody asked me, hey, so back then you could go to a nightclub. I was 13 and I could pass for 21 with a lot of makeup and a lot of whatever. And so my friend was like, hey, like, there was this club called 1821, and you could either be 18 or 21. If you're 21, you could drink. And if you're under 18, you could just go there to dance. It was like a disco, whatever.
Okay.
So, so my friend's like, let's go. And I'm like, oh shit. I was like, what the hell? Like, how am I going to do this? So, so my dad, there was a fence that was by their bedroom window. And so I snuck out the window and I jumped over the fence, and I met my friend Willie, who had a car, and we went there. And that was the first time I had drank. That was the first time I smoked weed. And it was on. Like, I was like, to me, being really sheltered like that, and then living in a really strict household, I was just like, okay, like, this is the shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was amazing, so that's what I felt like at that time. Like, I still remember what that felt like, having that freedom to be like, oh shit, like, there's a whole nother world out here, and so, yeah, this shit's good. Do you know what I mean? And so I was like, oh shit. So I had to be back by like, Sling Blade, you're right. It's super awkward, right? But it was weird because when I went to junior high, I felt like awkward to 6th grade. And then when I went to 7th grade, boys started paying attention to me. And I was like, oh, like, what is this? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is new. Do you know what I mean? I felt like I had some control. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I was starting to feel like I was the master of my own destiny. And I was like, I felt like I was kind of living like two lives, right? I lived my life as a real good girl, and I lived my life as a real bad girl. I mean, so I felt like I had two, like, the combination of both. So, make a long story short, I started sneaking out much more often. Oh, Henry, that's nice.
Right.
So, anyway, so I ended up doing that often, and I ended up like doing, like, that was the first time I was ever introduced to drugs, and which I thought were amazing. So, I mean, like, I just was like, I never like done any of that. Do you mean, so that was like super cool to me. And so it came down to the point where we were, back then you could get arrested for like malicious mischief, being out after curfew, whatever. And so again, I'm 13 years old. And so I ended up one night getting picked up by the police like at 4 a.m. And they're like, what's your name? And I made up some name, and they're like, give us your phone number. And so they called my mom, and they're like, where is she? And she's like, she's in bed. And they're like, yeah, no, she's not in. Yeah, you might want to check that. And so she was like, oh shit, she's not in bed. And so I walked in the door, and I was very fearful that I was going to get my ass beat 100%. But my dad was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you going to say? I was like, dude, what can I say? It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I just got brought home by the police. What can I say? You know what I mean? So I was like, I was out doing my thing, whatever. So we ended up getting into like a physical altercation. And so he went to grab me by the throat, and I kicked him as hard as I could in the nuts, and I left. you know,
Yeah.
and so I was, you know, I left. And so, back then you could be made a ward of the court. Like if you were like what they used to call it like an incorrigible minor or something. And
Mhm.
so I was like, I'm gonna fucking leave. And he was like, I'll pack your shit. I'm like, okay, peace. I'm out. So
Yeah.
I literally packed my shit. I stayed, I was a runaway. So I slept in laundromats. Um I but back then I tried to go to school, but they wouldn't let me because I was considered a runaway, which is bizarre. It's just a bizarre thing.
Right.
So you could get, like I said, you could get arrested for malicious mischief, being a runaway, whatever back then. So I was always attracted to kind of like the darker side of
Mhm.
life. And again, because I had no context of what that was before that. So I was called like before and after. And so um I was definitely hi Sling Blade. Oh. So oh I don't have my girlfriends. Yeah, no doubt. So I ended up mm, I was probably, I don't know. uh, It's weird because somebody made up a story about me. So somebody had said they were trying to get themselves out of trouble, and they said to the cops that I stole a car, that I had a kilo of coke in my car, that all this shit happened that I did not do. And so the cops ended up coming to my house.
Mhm.
Uh, Basically, they arrested me and they went to juvenile hall. Basically, in just a suspicion, nothing more than that. So, aw,
That's
hey,
so
Hardy,
cool.
that's so cool.
Yeah, birthday twin right there. We have the same birthday. So what's up, Pisces
Oh, that's
gang?
cool.
That's right.
Oh,
And
that's
happy
so
belated
nice.
birthday. Yes.
Um, so so I ended up going to juvenile hall. Make a long story short, I ended up going to juvenile hall probably 10 times in like 6 months for various reasons. And so I got arrested and I was on a girls' ranch suspension. So if anybody doesn't know what that is, it is a precursor to going to youth authority and a precursor to going to prison. So I was on a suspension. And so I was like, okay, cool. I can do this. And one day I was really bored at home, and my friend, who I thought was my friend at the time, I was 14, and she was like, "Hey," I mean this quite literally. I was bored, and she's like, "Hey, there was this girl that lived behind me that was she was slow at learning. I wouldn't say she was like, I think she had like Asperger's, and so um, we knew she'd always like bring money to us and bring like drugs to us and like all this shit. So we were bored, and I was like, she lived right next door to me. So I'm like, dude, let's go like break into her house. And so my friend's like, yeah, it was her suggestion. And then we did it. And so we went over there, and like a dumbass, I took like some albums from her and some coins. And my boyfriend at the time was over 18. And we had, he took the coins that were worth some money and buried them in the backyard at his house. And so, um, and among this time, I'm like doing LSD, I'm like trying different shit, like, and it's like, and I'm thinking I'm like living large, and I'm so not. But it was like,
It felt that way at the time,
yeah, I
right?
really did. Like I felt like I was just like living my authentic life, and I was having a good time, and you know, and so she didn't tell me that she had pulled a burglary the week before that the same way. She didn't tell me that.
Okay.
So, and her mom was Palo Alto PD.
Oh no.
So, I'm off somewhere, and you know, we didn't have cell phones then. So I call home, and my mom's like, the cops are here. I'm like, why? And she said, They wanted me, my mom let them in my room, and they found the albums with this girl's name on them. And so I went home, and the cop's like, hey, I just want you to know how your friends feel, and so, like what your friend said. So my friend said that I held a gun to her head, that I made her rob this house. They had Dobermans, and we fed the Doberman steak, because I wanted to obviously divert them from what we were doing. And so she said that the stuff that she had in her room, I gave to her. It was this whole convoluted shit. So, mind you, I'm on a suspended sentence. So I go, they take me to juvenile hall. I spent like 6-7 months there. And then I went to the girls' ranch I turned 15 there. I was only supposed to do 8 months, and I ended up doing 1.5 years, almost 2 years. Yeah, it was crazy. And I got introduced to a whole crazy shit there. I mean, so yeah, it was really crazy. And I was definitely going down a really bad road, for sure. Like my thing then though was like, really like, I'm going to get you before you get me. So I fought a lot, which I kept getting time added, because I would be like, if I knew somebody was talking shit, I would just confront him and we would fight. I mean, so because I didn't want to wait. I mean, like, I didn't want to appear weak, and I didn't want to so that was my persona back then, is that everyone was like, don't fuck with her, she'll kick your ass, blah blah blah. That was just like a really but again, here I am from a middle class neighborhood. We're all crazy. That's right, life happens fast. And but back then, when you would go to the girls' ranch, if you were on good behavior, they would let you go home for the weekend.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy.
No, I know I haven't heard of that, but I have heard of the girls' ranch. So yeah.
And so it was in Morgan Hill. I think it was right next to it was called Muriel Wright Residential Center. That's what it was called. I think it's like a meditation center now, or some crazy. So the boys' ranch was over there also. So there was boys there. And so we had boys at our ranch, at the girls' ranch also. So if you were like smaller, if you were clicked up with a gang, anything like that, that's where they would send them. That was so dumb. You know, because there's like, we're talking 75% girls, 25% boys.
Oh, wow.
And we're all boy crazy, right? And so, yeah, it was crazy. So, I ended up, I hooked up with this one, and his name was Larry. And so he was like, he was like 2 months older than me, some crazy shit like that. Anyways, I kept getting in fights and kept whatever. And so, and again, I ended up doing like way longer than I had to. There was this, again, now thinking about it, it's like crazy, because there was a prostitute there. Her name was Debbie. I'll never forget her. She had a peg leg. I'm not making fun of a disability, but like she was this big Amazon chick, and she was like 6'2", and she used to always talk shit. She'd always say, "Ben influence us men angels." Oh, I totally know that. So true.
Yeah, we know. We know.
So I ended up, she kept talking shit about me, blah, blah, blah. And so she was in the shower, and we lived in like an apartment setting, you know, because I was on like the honor roll there. And so I ended up, we got in a fight, and I took the opportunity while she was taking a shower to do it, because she was way bigger than me. And so
tactical move at that point. Yeah, smart.
you know, and so I do, and then basically I got thrown in what they would call the hole.
Yeah.
So I got thrown in butt naked. There's no, thanks, Wade, you're awesome. So I ended up, they ended up putting me like in solitary for like 3 days. So my mom knew what would get to me. And so, again, I'm super close to my grandma. And so my mom brings my grandma up to see me. So they bring me out in my pajamas and they handcuff me. And so when I went out and I saw my grandma, like I just like started like crying. Like she had never seen me like that. That's not the way I wanted her to see me. It definitely made an impact on me. And she started crying when she saw me. And I was just like, this is like some messed up shit. And so I was really, when people talk about mentors, I had a counselor then. And so he ended up, his name was Mr. Otten, Terry Otten was his name. And he ends up talking to me and Larry. And so he's talking to Larry and he's like, Larry, like, where's your peeps at? And he's like, they're all in prison. He's like, your uncles, your dad, like whatever. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, that's obviously where you want to go. Like, that's what you know. Do you mean, so that's where you want to be? And he didn't deny it. Do you mean, he was like, yeah, you know? And so for me, he was like, and this was really hard for me to take at the time. He said, and Adrienne, you just think you can just get away with whatever you want with that smile. And he's like, I'm sure it's worked for you. And so, but it's not going to work here. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to youth authority and then you're going to go to prison. That's what's going to happen. Like, that's the way it is. And so during that time, I was going to school. And when I was at the girls' ranch, I learned how to drive. I got caught up on what I was behind in my credits at school. So I was actually ahead of the curve. So I actually ended up graduating when I was 17 because of that. I mean, I wouldn't have done that unless I would have been there. So, so what he said to me really impacted me. I thought, like, am I fooling anybody? Like, I really do think I can get away with this shit. I mean, so, I, from that point on, I just didn't get in trouble again. I finally ended up getting out, and I asked my mom when she came to pick me up. I asked her to pull over. There was these huge iron gates that they had outside, and I got out of the car and I looked at those gates, and I wanted to take a mental picture of that. Like, I was like, I don't want to come back here. I have no desire to do that. I mean, so I stood there. I kind of took a mental picture, and I got in the car. And back then, we were afforded a lot of opportunities. If you were kind of what they considered a malicious mischief, they called it malicious mischief, incredulous minor, like all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
So they put me in a summer program, and my very first job was as an accountant at NASA. And so, like, they would let freaking criminals in there. You know what I mean? So I was like, hell yeah. So I got paid. I got to, do like kind of introduce myself into like what I wanted to do for a career. But what was crazy is that we would have to go to this really rundown school, and then we'd go to our jobs after, whatever they linked us up with. So there was these guys and these girls I used to always hang out with. And they were like, hey, do you want to smoke some weed? I'm like, yeah, let's smoke weed. Yeah, let's do that. It was PCP, and I had never done that before. And we went to the Monterey Cannery. Okay. So they had those big, I forget what they call them, but they were like these walkways above, like on the roof, that you would walk inside the building so you could look down and see everything. Well, I'm high as shit, right? And so we're like walking on those things, and I was like, oh fuck. Like, my friends were having to like walk me like arm to arm because I was high. Like, I had no clue what the fuck was happening. So But no one noticed because we had teachers back then that didn't pay attention. I mean, so so I made it through that, and I eventually ended up, but I was still on so now I was on a suspended sentence for youth authority, right? And so I was on for like 2 years. And let me backtrack a little bit. One of the things that they had told me was that they're like, if Colleen, that's the person that I got arrested with, that's basically ratted on me. If anything happens to her, you're going to be responsible. We're going to come right to you. Like, that's what we're going to do. So she ended up telling the cops that I had buried the coins in my boyfriend's backyard. And so my attorney at the time let me call him, and I was like, dude, it's not worth it. He was over 18. I'm like, just do your shit. Just give it to him. I was like, it's totally not worth it. Like, just give him whatever. And that way you're not going to get in trouble. And so she ended up actually coming into the same juvenile hall that I was at. She got arrested like 2 months later for some shit. So that's when my attorney was like, if anything happens to her, they're going to blame it on you, whatever. So when I got transferred to the girls' ranch, I will never forget this. My friend Casper was this big, ganged up chick, and I loved her. Like, she was down for whatever, and she was going to YA. There was no ranch in between, whatever. She really didn't have anything to lose. And so she was like, hey, she's like, the day that you leave, we're going to do this. And I was like, okay. I was like, she's like, you're not going to get blamed for it. You won't be here, like, whatever. So I'm like, cool. So back then you could hold your door shut. So like when they would lock them, you could do it so the door wouldn't lock. And so I left, and it was shower time. And so she didn't lock she held her door so it wouldn't lock. So Colleen's coming down the hall. She swings the door open, smacks her with the door, beats the shit out of her. And they did. They called me. And they're like, they came to see me basically. And they're like, what did you have? And I was like, dude, I wasn't even here. Like, what could I have, to do with that? But she did like a 90-day whatever. And that was, the end of that. She literally tried to friend me on Facebook when Facebook came about. And she was like, this was 30 years later, 20 years later, whatever. And she's like, I always felt really bad about what happened. I was like, dude, that was like a year and a half of my life that I didn't need to do. And so it made me really mistrustful anyways of women.
Yeah. Because I don't think a lot of people give that any play, like what could happen, with another female, or you know what I'm saying? Like, and
I trusted her. I mean, she didn't tell me that she had pulled a burglary just like that. She didn't say none of that to me. And the one thing I will say also is that, I was really fortunate. My mom came and saw me every single weekend.
That was my next question. Did you have visits?
Yeah. And she didn't smoke. And she would bring a pack of cigarettes, and she would light the cigarette and put it in the ashtray. And I would, you could still smoke back then. Do you mean? So I graduated in this was probably, I'm going to say 78, maybe something like that. And, so yeah, she came and saw me every single weekend. And when I had weekend passes, she would let me run off and do whatever I wanted to do. And, I mean, I would come back to the girls' ranch high on mushrooms, like hickeys all over my neck, and they'd be like, "What happened?" I'd be like, "I don't know. What?" Like, it was just
what are you talking about? I got a rash.
And I tried to put makeup on them, and and then it was crazy. But so she would take me to shows, and she really still did kind of try to mother me. Do you mean, even though I was really resentful to her, because marrying my stepdad, I was just like, I would call her when I ran away. She was like, just call, I'd call her and let her know, I'm fine, I'm okay. And she would just beg me to come home, and I'd be like, nope, fuck that. I'm going to do what I want. You're not going to tell me what to do. And I kind of turned pretty mean. I was super mean to her. I would fight guys. I would fight girls. Like I'd be at a concert and I'd have a guy step on my friend's foot and I would threaten them and I would punch them and I would fight them. And I was just like, that was my kind of, that's who I was. That's was like I said, I was going to get you before you get me.
Mm-hmm.
So Tashanka, you're hilarious. So you're right. There's nothing like a mother's love, but I was super disrespectful to her. Like I was like so resentful, and I would just be like, she'd be like, "Are you okay?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm fucking fine." Like whatever, don't worry, I'm good. And and I went to a foster home for a while. This is before I went to the girls' ranch. I lived in like 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I told the cops that my dad beat me, so they finally took me out of that situation. And I went to it was like I went to the children's shelter, and I learned all kinds of shit there. And what was crazy is that I was in there with people whose parents have been murdered. I ran away it came out to like every 7 days. I ran away from there, and I'd get caught and they'd take me back, and I'd get caught and they would take me back. And so I really I got myself into a lot of situations that I'm actually still surprised I'm sitting here today. And we hitchhiked, we did all kinds of crazy shit. That's not hit hardcore. That's Coletown.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's okay. You're supporting. That's all good.
Yeah.
So it was just a really, I came home eventually, obviously. And what happened though was that I just didn't get caught doing shit. I mean, so it was the first time I'd ever been introduced to meth, which is not meth. It's not what it is now. It was crank, and it was just different. So I get out when I'm 15, and I meet the most beautiful man I've ever met in my life. I'm 15 years old. He kind of looks like James Dean, but older. 7 years older than me. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So he was 21 and I was 15. And I assume, again, I'm blinded by his gorgeousness, right? He asked me out, and of course I say yes. I'm 15 years old, right? And so I'm working. I graduated early from school. My mom had a really strong work ethic, and so I worked all the time. I mean, and I worked in sales, or I worked for Atari and all this, whatever. So I meet this guy, and I'm working at this company that is they made floppy disks. So it was the first computer. It was kind of like Google is now back then. And so I was an admin assistant when I was 17 years old. And so so I meet him. I'm just about to turn 18. And so the first time we kind of start hanging out, and he's really heavy in a party, really heavy. And so, of course, I'm right there next to him doing my thing, whatever. And it's my 18th birthday. We've only been together for maybe a couple weeks. And in between that time, I am not going to say who it was, but one of my parents started to get into some drug use. And I take some responsibility for that, because I was like, hey, let's do this. Do you know what I mean? And so, no, I'm not going to do that. And then they did. And then it opened up a whole nother ball of wax. So I had not seen my parents it had been about a year. And so somewhere close to that. So, make a long story short, I was kind of I was living with my grandparents at the time when I met him. So I felt like I didn't have a firm footing in my life other than my work, right? I graduated, I was partying a lot, and I felt very not grounded, like very high left lane. Like I felt very like not, and one thing I've learned about myself is that if you fuck with my security, whatever that is, that's when, especially then, I would panic. So people would ask me, oh, like, how do you live so independently? You're only 17 years old. And how do you do this? And I was like, because I have to, like, I have to survive. So I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. And that's what I'm going to do. So it really, back then, it was not a big deal. Like, I'm just going to do, was them damn beer goggles and Amy. So true. And I met him at a park. Like literally, I'm at a park with my friends, and he's like, hey, like, let's go out and whatever. So I ended up going out with him, and I was 15. The next day after we went out, he ends up calling me, and he's like, hey, I got arrested. I have this choice to either go to jail or go to rehab. Oh, Julio, that is so nice.
Julio, just real quick Julio's always coming through. Just let me acknowledge him real quick, guys. Like,
that is so nice. Oh my God, you're awesome.
Yeah, he is.
You're awesome. That's so sweet.
Yeah, yes.
So he's like, I'm at this counseling place in like fucking Napa, and he's like, will you come up and get me? Like, break me out. I'm like, fuck that. No. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So a couple years go by. I'm still working. I'm like doing my thing. I haven't talked to my person, my mom or dad, whatever. And so I end up going to, so I'm living I'm couch surfing. I had a really good job, and I started taking some college classes at the same time. So anyway, so I'm now 17, almost 18, and he calls, and he's like, so my grandma calls me, and she's like, hey, some guy named Frank called you. And I was like, what? I was like, what? I was like, where is he? Like, what is he doing? Like, whatever. And so she's like, oh my God, like, calm down, girl. So she gives me his info. And I call him, and we end up like, we went out a couple times again, and we end up going to this party, and it's the night of my birthday's on Halloween, and it's my 18th birthday, and we go to this party, and so he takes some Quaaludes and drinks on top of that. Okay, whatever. So I had men lay a hand on me in anger, but I was very quick to fight back. And it wasn't anything super aggressive. It was like, get the fuck out of my car. Like, I mean, it wasn't anything like, I'm going to beat you. And so, yeah, nothing like that. And so we go to this thing. He thinks I'm talking to some guy. He's like, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I'm not talking to anybody. Like, why are you saying that to me? I never had that before, so I didn't know what that looked like. Do you know what I mean? So, aw, left lane, you're so awesome.
Left lane's always out. I know. Left lane's always showing love.
He's a piece of shit. That's awesome. He's so cool. So, yeah, his tolerance was not good. Trust and believe.
Yeah.
So, I end up, and I didn't. Again, I had no experience with that. So I'm 17, I'm just turning 18. I have no experience with it. I don't know what that looks like. So this is what I'm doing, right? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, fuck you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, you're a punk and don't fucking talk to me that way. That's why I'm talking, right? Because I don't know. I had no idea what I was in store for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we get to my friend's house. And mind you, all of my friends are there and all of his friends are there. Right. And when you're that age, that stuff really makes an impact. Like you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to, whatever. And so we go, everyone else is outside and we go inside. And so he's still talking shit, whatever. So I say some shit, and literally next thing I know, he is like, he's choking me. But I'm fighting, right? Like I'm kicking him and I'm punching him and whatever. And so he literally picks me up, and I was a little smaller than I am now. And so he throws me through a shower door.
Oh,
And I'm just like, I'm wearing all white because we went dressed as the mafia. And so I had like all white on with like this, like, anyways. So I have to ask you guys video. Yes, I hear that. I hear it all the time. Well, I used to, especially in that like 90s, like for sure.
Yeah, she hears it. Yeah.
Yo, Adrienne. So
right.
So I end up literally like I'm like I look down and all I see is blood.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I have like little nicks all over my neck, all over my knees. And so I fall. Obviously, when he threw me, I fell into the glass. So my knees are bleeding. And but again, all of our friends are outside, right? Okay. So I pick myself up and I'm kind of in shock. Like I don't even know what to do with that. Do you mean? So I go outside and people are like, my best friend's there. And she's like, what? And and I'm like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like now, I'm not whatever. And so I didn't realize I had 2 black eyes because he literally punched me in the face. And so I was working at Supercuts then. And I go to work the next day and everyone's like, what happened to you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Not realizing, I was like, oh, I fell.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever, and so as we know, this get worse as you go along. So I'm at work and he comes to see me at work and he's like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, I'm good. Like,
yeah,
you did this, right? And he's like, I don't remember anything. So then, of course, came the love bomb, right? So I get flowers. I get like, I was like, dude, I never want to fucking see you. You're a piece of shit. Like, I don't know. And so he ends up love bombing me, basically. Yeah. And again, I feel very isolated. I'm trying to like I lived in a hotel. I was 18 years old. Do you mean like and so I'm like, oh my God, like this is, maybe he doesn't. Does he realize what happened? Like, am I, again, I had no experience in that. Right. So I'm like, oh my God, like he really loves me. Like, he's just, so he's just like, so, I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but I'm also not going to be in denial about what that looks like.
Yeah. The truth is the truth.
It's the truth. I mean, and so, he was addicted to crank. He shot up. He did it was a terrible 18, 19, 20, and 21, 5 years. He died when I was 22. I'll talk about that. But anyways, it was fucking terrible. Like, I mean, like he whipped me with a belt when I was pregnant. But I thought I was super desperate. Like, I mean, what I mean by desperate is I would beg him not to leave me. I would cry. I mean, that's like, I felt like if he left, like I would be alone. And I already felt abandoned already from my family situation. And I was just like, I just was, it was terrible. I mean, it was a terrible thing to go through at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like, it was really crazy. And you know what, but the thing is that at that time when I was with him, I was really kind of I was a good girl. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't get in trouble and I was like working, I was going to school. Like, I really turned my life around. Do you know what I mean? It was a very thoughtful decision on my part that was like, I don't want to go to jail. And just so everyone knows, I've never been. And I was like, I don't want to live that life. Like, I want to be successful, and I want to be, and I was really lucky because I had a lot of mentors. Like, I had people that I was in the girls' ranch with, were my counselors. I had teachers. I had family members, like my grandma, who was really like, you know what, you have a lot of ability. I had people believe in me. Do you mean? And that gave me the confidence to be able to be like, you know what, I want to go to school. Like, I want to, like, back then you could work your way up. So if you were, he did have to, yeah. So like, I had to work my way up. So make a long story short, basically 4 years of very abusive, drug induced. And not to say that I wasn't right there, because I was, but I was a total weekend warrior. So I would party on the weekends, keep my shit together during the week. And so I end up getting pregnant, and he was like, okay, like, he literally went into the, you're right. Jojo, you're 1,000,000% right. Like, I went against everything. I went against my family. I went against everything. And my family made concessions so that they could be with me, is they made concessions for him. Right. So they were like, let's, so, so I get pregnant, and I didn't realize I was pregnant. And so he made the decision. He's like, and he was one of those ones that really fought between good and evil. 1,000,000%. Like, he would go to church and he would just cry. Like, he was just, he was a very tortured individual, 1,000,000%. And so he made a decision at 28 years old that he wanted to go into the Marine Corps. And so he did, where they would test you. You would go in, you would pee test, you would do all that, and then you would go to the military. So he did. He fucking made it at 20 years old, a fucking total, he shot up drugs, like everything. Made it all the way through boot camp. All the way. And the day before he graduated, his results came back from his drug test that he took before he went in, and came back dirty.
No.
And so they're like, dude, peace out. And it was like you were never here. I really believe that if that would have maintained its way through, he would have been a much different person. I mean, I don't think he was ever that clean for that long a period of time, ever. And again, I'm not going to go into the whole, but it was really a nasty, nasty situation. So when he came home, he picked up from where he left out, and then I found out I was pregnant. And then of course we got there. Are you sure it's mine? Blah, blah. Like, all of that, all that heinous bullshit. And so, like I said, it was terrible when I was pregnant with my daughter, which should be a really beautiful time, was met with a lot of drug fueled, on his side, shit. And he ended up taking one of my checks and bought guns, and wrote one of my checks, had one of my friends write the check. And he ended up so the cops come to the house, and they're like, did you write this? And I was like, yeah, no. I was like, I'm not going to tell you who did, but it wasn't me, because right away. Yeah, I knew right away. And I was like, dude, I'm not fucking going to jail for you. Fuck off. And like, I'm not going to say it's you, but I'm going to say it's not me.
Yeah.
And so the cops were like, are you sure you didn't sign a sign law? That is not my signature, bitches. So like, whatever.
Run that. Yeah. Please
so he ended up going to jail. And so they arrested, he admitted, he was like, it was me, blah, blah, blah. He goes to jail. I mean, I managed these apartments. He ripped them. It was just, that story could just go on, on and on. And so, I have my daughter. My lifestyle family chose a square ass Asian guy. If we're in Corcoran for me, like me. Oh my God. Really? that is fucking terrible. Like,
Mhm.
you're right. Like, I don't think people have any idea. Like, there was nights that I literally felt like I was going to die. Like, I mean, like God, God brought me through. When I say that, I'm not underplaying that at all. Like, there was nights that I would be on my knees
Yeah.
praying, like, just get me through this. Don't let him kill me. Don't let him kill me. Don't let him kill me. And I mean, he stabbed me. Like, there was just, it was all bad. Like, I could rule each individual escapade, but I was battered and I was abused. And that's really the bottom line. And back then, you guys, we didn't have things like, we didn't talk about it. That's not something we talked about. Like, it was embarrassing for me to say that to my friends, and it was embarrassing for me to tell my family. So I didn't. I was like, I can handle this. Like, I love him, but he loves me.
Yeah.
He loves me. That's why he does it. It's because he loves me.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
What is that? And I mean, women do this to men too. So I'm not just saying one side or the other.
No, 1,000,000%.
But what is that when we are like, I don't even want to say willing, but we will accept it for ourselves, but we will cover it up until the end for that person.
Yeah, and I felt like, you know what, like, I made excuses for him. He cheated on me. He, like, did, and I just was like, but he would go, like, now they have the term for it, which is called love bombing. Like, he would totally be like, when I say to you guys that he struggled with good and evil,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there'd be times that he would, like, OD, and he would be like, I can see him. Like, it's dark. There's fucking, the devil's coming to get me. Like, I mean, like, it wasn't like he wasn't aware of the difference, and he would feel terrible. But that love bombing really got to me. But I didn't realize at the time I was basically abandoned. By my own parents. Jimmy, and I felt like I needed to hold on to something,
Sure.
be it bad, good, or indifferent. So yeah. And you know what, JoJo? That's what I looked at it like. I looked at it like his obsessiveness was love.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the fact that he was so jealous, and that he, like, I mean, I remember I went out somewhere with a guy that I had dated. Like, Frank knew that, and we had gone out somewhere, and I thought that he was going to kill that guy. Like, I mean, it was just like, and okay, so let me just say this. So he was half Indian native and half Irish.
Okay.
So, and I know this is like, people say, I'm not like labeling, but for him, he would be fine if he drank beer. He'd be fine if he smoked weed. But the minute that he would drink hard alcohol, like, literally, you would see a demon in his face. And I'm not kidding. Like, he would be having a good time. We'd be playing pool, like, whatever. And then all of a sudden you would just see this.
The shift.
Yeah. I mean, it was fucking scary. You mean? And so it got to the point of, like, when we were at a bar or something and I would see that look, I would grab my purse and I would fucking leave. Because I was like, no, I already know this was what's going to happen, and I'm good. And so, so he ended up, we made a decision to split up. Like, I worked at in this beautiful place in Palo Alto. I worked for a really wealthy individual who owned like a development company. And I specifically remember I was like, dude, like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I just was like, I was over it. No, by this time, my daughter is almost 2 years old. Which, let's add one more thing, that he didn't fucking come pick me up from the hospital because he was out partying with his friends. So I had to have my grandparents come pick me up. It was just all.
Like when you had the baby?
Yeah. Yeah. He came the night that he came when she was born. He was there. And then when he was supposed to come pick me up, he never showed up. So again, I was making excuses. Oh, his friends, blah, 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 whatever. And so, and I did Debbie 1,000,000%. I thought I could save him. I thought I was going to be the one to make a difference and save him. And so we end up, basically one night we went out to dinner and he's like, he hooked up with my daughter's babysitter in a nutshell. So they hook up, and it's after I got out of jail, like whatever. And, obviously we had a kid. And so, he ends up, and we lived with my grandparents. So went through all this shit. And during this time, on and off, like it was like not all the time, but when my grandparents been out, I was living in a hotel. They were like, fuck that. Like, you're coming to live with us, whatever. Got it for my grandma. So, he tells me, we're in the car one day and he's like, hey, I met this chick and we're not together. Like he's cheated with me on the babysitter. I'm like, fuck you. I'm done with you, whatever.
Yeah.
So I met this chick and he's like, she is like, I think with me, he had like a Madonna complex. Like I was, I went to church. I had a good job. I blah, blah, blah. And even though I was a weekend warrior, I wasn't like balls to the wall. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so he met this chick. He's like, oh yeah, like she took her top off in the car and she'll just like do whatever and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, go with that. Good for you. I mean, like, awesome, good for you.
Yeah.
And so we end up, we go to dinner and he picks me up from work and he had a motorcycle. Imagine that. And so he helps me do something for work or whatever that day. And so we're in the elevator and I look at him and I was like, look, I know that we've been through a lot of shit, but you're a really good dad. Like our daughter, she loves you so much. And he was like, I love her. And, she's just, it like being a dad is just amazing. I was like, no matter how fucked up things are between you and me, like she really loves you. And you're just like, you're good that way. You spend time with her. Like, I can't begrudge you for that. Do you mean? And so, and then that night it was very strange because I didn't sleep in the same bed with him and I got in bed with him. And I was like, I'm looking at him and I'm looking at him like I'm looking at his eyebrows. I'm looking at his face and I'm 22 at this time. And I kissed him goodnight and I went to sleep. And so the next day he leaves and I was watching, I'll never forget this. I was watching Hill Street Blues and I was fucking irritated as shit because he wasn't home. And I was like, you motherfucker, like, what are you doing now? Whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'm irritated and I'm like, so I park my car against the garage so he can't park his motorcycle in front of my car. Like I'm fucking irritated.
Right.
And about 11 o'clock at night, there's a knock on my door. And I'm with my grandparents. Nicole's in bed. She's asleep. And we open, I look outside and I see a cop car. And I'm like, oh, shit. I think he got in trouble. Right. And so I run to the front door before my grandpa can open the door. And so I open the door. I'm like, what's up? And he's like, is this your name? I'm like, yes, this is my name. And he goes, is your husband named Frank? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, it is. And so he looks at me and he goes, I don't know how to tell you this. And I'm like, what? And he's like, your husband was involved in a motorcycle accident. And I was like, is he okay? Like, is he okay? Is he okay? Mm-hmm. And all I remember is him saying no. And I literally dropped to my knees and I passed out. My grandfather was there. And I remember my grandfather hugging me and picking me up. And he died. And he got in a motorcycle wreck and he got hit by oncoming traffic. And it was devastating to me. I mean, no matter what that looked like, I was 22 years old and I was a widow who had who had a little kid.
Yeah.
And it was oh, Jojo, it was devastating. I mean, like, I didn't know he was my project, right? Like, that's what I consumed myself with. And so I didn't know how to operate with that. I had no idea. And in that time, my parent had come back into my life before my daughter was born. And so, oh, Henry, that's sweet.
Yeah.
So I just felt very devastated. And I had lived in the Bay Area my whole life. I'd never been out. I moved to Reno 1 year with Frank when I was 18, and I never lived away from it. And I packed my shit. And 4 weeks after he died, the only time I ever thought about contemplating suicide ever, I uh, I got really high one night with my friend about 2 weeks after he died, and I was like, "Why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing?" And then my daughter, I always tell her, she saved my life. Do you mean? Because I was like, I don't think I can do this. Do you mean? And so I thought about her, and you know, I was 22 when he died, and so then my friend, maybe, and it was a lot of maneuvering in just a couple of months, in a year. Like, I was like, I want to stay single. I don't want to get in a relationship. I don't want to do this. Like, it was so terrible. Um, and then my friend, my great friend Colleen was like, "Hey, do you want to write to this guy that's in prison?" And it had been about a year after Frank died. And so I was like, fuck that. I'm not writing some fool in prison. No, like, no, I'm not doing that. And so I worked at this law firm, and I was like, give him my address. Like, you can totally give him my address. And so she did. And it was Mitch. And Mitch started writing me and writing me and writing me. And I was just like, I didn't write him back. And so he ended up sending me, on Mother's Day, I think it was 1988. He sent me flowers for Mother's Day. And I was like, okay, I had already filled up my visiting forms or whatever. And so I went to go see him. And I always had this vision of, hi, Julie, of what I wanted that to look like. What I wanted, the man that I wanted to be with. I really did have a vision of what I wanted that to look like and what I prayed for, right? And so he was tall. He had a motorcycle, or was a biker, and was a little older than me, but not much. And when I went to go see Mitch and walked in and I saw him, I was like, oh my God. Like, this, like, everything that I had asked for was there.
So you felt it in that moment, like,
yeah, like, it definitely made, like, I knew at that moment, again, like, I took that snapshot when I left the girls' ranch. I literally took a snapshot and I was like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. And what was crazy is that when I say that he was all of those things that I wanted in a man, he was really respectful. He was, but respectful, but, you know, I was 22. Do you know what I mean? So, like, he was, I thought he was amazingly hot. Like, I just was, like, very attracted to him. And, but he really, he loved me the way that I felt like I needed. And I think I did the same thing for him. And so, we got married like 4 months after I met him. And, you know, and Jen, we've talked about this before. Like, it's just, I got a lot of shit from a lot of people. You know, people like, oh, you're going to marry some guy in prison. Oh, like, you know, you should date me because I'm fucking amazing and blah, blah, blah. And why do you want to be with some dude in prison? And, you know what I mean? It was a constant battle. At 22 years old, it was a real battle. Do you know what I mean? And so, so we ended up getting married. And when I say this, if there's one thing I implore, like with Mitch and me, I felt like it was what it was supposed to be. We were, again, I was young in the 70s and there was a lot of crazy shit going on. And so when I married Mitch in 88, I felt like I had lived like 4 lifetimes in that.
Because you grew up kind of fast. Like you were
1,000,000%.
Okay.
And so I just really felt like at that time, we didn't sleep together till we were married. I mean, we didn't, we had this bond that we created before we got married. And it was strong. And it was like, but I felt like he didn't just say he loved me, like his actions spoke that.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between when people say that. And I had been not trained very well. You know what I mean? Like so I really felt like it was a difficult, Julie, I am married to Mitch. So I felt like it was mind you, don't let me get it twisted because we did get divorced while he was in prison. Mitch, for those of you who don't know, did 38 years in prison. And when I met Mitch, he had only been in there for 8 years.
Okay.
That's so cool to think about that, isn't it, Jen? Like, and so he once we kind of got to the point that he felt like he was not getting out ever because he had a life sentence and they weren't letting anybody out.
Yeah.
He cut me loose. And so he was like, I want you to, and once they took away our family visits, it was kind of done. And we went through a really fucking dark, Mitch was in a really shitty place. I mean, like he was just like, he lived there. He lived in prison. Jimmy and I didn't. And so, but this is the beautiful thing, is that the entire time that Mitch and I, if we weren't together, he always stayed in contact with my daughter. We got married when she was 3.5. And so he stayed in contact with her all the way up until the time he got out. So that was a constant, and that was a constant in her life. And my mom said something to me when he was getting out of prison. She said, I feel like he was the most consistent thing in your life from the time you were 22 till now. And that's true. That's besides my daughter, he was the only constant. So whether we were together or not, we talked all the time, and he stayed in contact with Nicole all the time.
Even despite your own
and so it was really crazy because when she was getting married, she was like, I want to introduce him to my husband. Like, I want his okay. Jimmy. And so we went to go see him. And when we left and the doors shut, my daughter was like bawling. And she was like, how could you leave with that all the time? And I was like, it was just something I did. And I felt like you. I was like, I felt empty when I walked out those doors. I felt it was terrible. It was just, it was really messed up. But I think for Mitch and I, it was a necessary, it was a necessary thing for us to go through to get to the other side.
Yeah.
So, in that time, I ended up being released. I got my bachelor's degree. I raised a very successful kid, and she has her master's degree. She is successful. She's successful in life, just not financially. She has an amazing husband. And then she ended up just really, she ended up being really happy. And she saw me through a lot of shit. And I'm proud of the person that she is. I mean, that's like that I have, we have 2 amazing grandkids and they're amazing parents. And so I love the fact that she's successful in life and financially and all of those things.
Right.
So anyways, so that kind of carried me through. And when Mitch got released, as people know our story, like I ended up writing him, and he ended up he got the letter, which was amazing because I'd only found out 5 days before that he was getting out, and my daughter was the one that told me. And we ended up connecting. And I was like, I didn't think about when I wrote him that letter. I was like, hey, like, here's my email address. I didn't put my phone number down. And so I'm finishing my bachelor's, and it was like, this was a little over 4 years ago, and I'm typing, and all of a sudden he sends me this message, and he's like, for the first time in 38 years, I had pork chops and gravy for the first time in 38 years. And I'm like, you gonna call me? Like, oh, really? That's it? I was like, where are you? Like, what are you doing? Like, whatever.
Right.
His mom went and picked him up, and he got out in September, and this is 4 years ago, and I saw him in November. I went out to go see him, and I spent like 4 days out there, and it was like, it's funny, life without Pearl. During the time that I was going there, I didn't see that at all. It was much different. It was much reversed. So the women that were going in there were really being manipulated by men that were in. I would say, if I was just to pick a number, I would say like 90%. That's why I caught so much shit about being with someone that was in prison. I mean, so
time to change for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, it was just a lot. It was crazy. Like, I mean, I would just be like, oh, like, I didn't want to be one of those numbers. I didn't want to be, and so I was cautious when I met Mitch. I was just like, dude, like, that was the thing. Like, guys would hook up with chicks while they're in prison. While they were doing their time. And once they were done, they were done. Like, that was about 90% of what that looked like.
Okay.
So I caught a lot of shit for that, because people were like, oh, he's going to fucking dump you, blah, blah, blah. It's just using you or whatever. And so, yeah, that's interesting. That was really a lot. That was a lot different. So, anyways, we ended up obviously, we ended up getting together. We moved in together. I started a new career. We've been together for, like, I'd worked at the same place for 17 years. I operated my whole life. I did all that, and we've been really successful. But then again, I'm going to kind of just put it out there. Mitch is he is an exception to the rule. And I was very fortunate that he's an amazing person. And like, are you talking that men incarcerated have too many women they use, or is that women love guys in prison? I think she's talking about that that women abuse the men, which is an interesting perspective. I mean, so
I've seen it. I have seen it.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, I've seen it both ways. So that is a good topic.
That's a great topic. Okay.
Yeah.
I really have to pee.
I do too. Will you guys wait for us?
Will you guys wait for us? I'll be right back. I really gotta pee. Okay, I'll be right back.
You guys chat it up. We'll be right back. So unprofessional, but I have to.
My T only dates guys that are locked up. She's crazy. That's crazy. We're not Henry, but we're not in the same house. So, but yeah, we're just in sync that way. This is Chewy. Chewy.
Is that Chewy?
That's Chewy.
Okay, I'm gonna make a confession real quick.
Oh, that feels so much better.
I'm sorry, guys. But
they're all powder in their nose. Holy crap!
Right?
Even when we go to the bathroom together on the internet. That's right.
That's what we do. Sorry, guys. It is what it is. Who said that? I
gotta go.
Yeah, Henry's always coming with the.
They're powder in their nose.
Honestly, the other night I was doing an interview, but I was recording it, right? And I was thinking, like, I'm never gonna tell this to anyone, but I'll tell this to you guys right now. So I had to use the ladies' room, so bad. And I was like, what do I say? Because this conversation was just flowing. You know how sometimes it's super choppy and awkward, and then when it flows, it's like beautiful. It was going so good, girl. So I had to. I'm like, 1 minute, please. My daughter's calling me. But I handled it and came right back. But yeah, that's just real life. It's just real life.
We're doing that. So, God, I feel like I've been it's weird for me to be on the side because to be honest with you guys, like I have not talked about that. Like Jen makes me feel comfortable, and you guys do. Most of you, I've seen most of you on attention. So I feel like I'm as weird as this is, I feel like we are like family. And I feel like, Mitch asked me tonight, he's like, what are you going to talk about? He asked me if I was going to talk about this. And I was like, about the abuse. And I was like, yeah, I was like, the thing that's really amazing is that fear gets removed. And that wasn't my only episode through that. That's just the one I'm going to talk about. But I just feel like it's important to, if there's anything that I could say, like kind of to end this story, is that I feel like if you have people that are good examples for you, if you have people that are going to mentor you when you feel like you're alone, if you have people that feel like you are loved and that you matter, if you have those things in your life, and again, can we see Mitch?
Yeah, that's really Hard Intentions is his channel.
Yeah, that's his channel.
Done a live on there. I know you. I have it linked in my playlist too. So yeah.
So the funny thing is that when, as much as like I said, like 90%, like I would see guys. The majority of it were, people again, like I know this might differ from other people's opinions, but predominantly, if I saw there was, again, I'm going to say maybe 10% of guys that were with women that would go to visit, like when I go visit Mitch at San Quentin, maybe 10% would be with the same women. And the other 90%, I would see different women. I would see, like, we would be in line and it was just like drama, and like they would be seeing multiple ones. And so that's where that whole thing came in. Like, he's scamming you. He just wants whatever, because let's not deny that for the fact that is the reality of a lot of people. They're in prison. And that's not something that, at least even, Mitch just got released 4 years ago, and that was still pretty common. I mean, so that they would be writing multiple women and they would be whatever. Again, on my experience, there was 10% maybe would be like true blue, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I think if you have those things, it's a really good combination. But the thing is, you know, Jen and I talk about this sometimes, is that, you know, you have to follow your shit up with action. Like I was really fortunate. Like I didn't finish my bachelor's degree till I was 54 years old, 55. I said I was going to do it, and I did it. I mean, and so it cost me a lot of money, but I was like, it was important to me, to finish that. And so I just would say, be true to yourself. Respect the one that you love. Respect is a big thing. Like, people throw that word around like it's not important.
It's so easy.
Don't you agree?
It
I
takes
totally
some
agree.
action behind the word.
You
In
do.
reality, yeah.
And, you know, I'm not perfect. Believe me, I have my fucking moments. I mean, and Mitch puts up with my shit 1,000,000%. I get frustrated. I get irritated. I get pissed off. And you know what? He is the yin to my yang. Like, when I'm high strung, he is mellow. When he's high strung, I'm like mellow. I mean, so Mitch is true, who loves the open road. I see him throttle down the other day, pushing through Vegas and stopped in Fresno. Yeah. You know what? I will never deny the things that Mitch wants to do.
And that's one thing I can say. You always encourage that.
Always.
Okay. Like, I have witnessed that about you since I've known you. You never try to alter a plan or, you know, it's like, go experience that. Like,
he needs
do that.
to. And, you know, we do a lot of that together, but I really believe that, you know, Mitch, you know, spent most of his life in a prison with males.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the thing is that he really respects the fact that, like, that means something to him. Like, his friendships with people mean something. And I want him to experience that, because, like, he's never going to you know, Mitch is this is what I say to Mitch. I go, you're the only 17-year-old, 6-year-old that I know. And like, he is very much in both worlds. Not like I'm not saying he's like immature. Like, he, like, for a 6-year-old male, he is like the most fun. He likes to go out. He likes to, like, he likes to go on motorcycle rides. He likes to, if I want to go hiking or for a walk or whatever, he's down for whatever. You know what I mean? And so I feel like I'm 58, and I feel like I get to live like the life that I didn't have, that I kind of suffered through. I feel like I get to have that with him.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that. Like,
so
I love that. You know what? It's I have heard from different people, several, you know, randomly and here and there. You know, the community, people think, oh, the prison community's far and wide in between, but really it's kind of a small community.
It is. In the big scheme of things, it is.
Yeah. So I've heard from different people. I've heard them say, like, you know, my guy, my husband, whatever, went in at this age and came out the same age. I'm not discounting that.
Right.
I'm nobody, I don't know personally.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that is true in some ways.
You know, the thing, Mitch is very, like, he's always been very mentally mature. Like, he's and he has emotional intelligence. 1,000,000%. I mean, like, he can gauge a situation. He can really gauge, for the most part, where a person's at. But the thing I think that and this kind of made me realize this after, when he got out, is that I think, you know, people are saying, like, oh, because I'm over 50, that I'm just going to be like I'm going to go to Denny's for my 55 and over, whatever. I mean, women are fucking really discounted. Like, when they get, like, they're like, oh, you're not a beautiful young woman anymore, so you're not worth anything. I mean, that's what society says.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
they
what
say,
society says. Yeah.
right?
I
And
hear
so
you.
I feel like, first of all, I will tell you that when I was like 45,
Mm-hmm.
I felt my best. Like in my whole time, I physically felt my best.
Mm-hmm.
Intellectually, I felt my best. Career-wise, I felt my best.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as a mom, I felt my best. Like that, I felt like I was the shit. Do you know what I mean? Like I just felt like all of those dots connected, and I
Yeah.
felt really good about myself. And the fact that people are saying when you were, remember, like 10 years ago, was like if you're 40, you're done. And
Yeah.
that keeps extending. I mean, like my mom is almost 80, and
Mm-hmm.
my mom does yoga. My mom works. My mom, like, she is like, my boss is like, she's amazing. And she's over 65, and she does not look like, she looks like she's like 45. Do you know what I mean? But she takes good care of herself. She's
Yeah.
happy emotionally. She takes care of herself. And so I think all of those things are
Mm-hmm.
big misconceptions. Mitch is
Mm-hmm.
60.
Yeah.
Mitch loves to ride his motorcycle. Mitch loves to play with the fucking dogs. Mitch likes to whatever. And so I feel like the only thing I feel like, and this isn't a surprise, I'm not saying anything that people don't know, is that Mitch will start to go down I call it the rabbit hole, right? And so it's like, if he feels like he's not doing enough, like he's like, he doesn't feel right about it. I mean, so if he's not working enough, or he's not bringing enough in, or whatever, he'll be like, I need to do whatever. I'm like, dude, you did fucking 38 years in prison. Do what the fuck you want. I have a good job. Like, you know what I mean? And so I was like, you need, like, we only get one life.
Yeah.
And yes, Tashunka said something. We got married in the courthouse, and then Mitch
Mm-hmm.
and I got remarried in the church, which was like an amazing ceremony. And I just felt like it was what God wanted for us. Do you know what I mean? And so
Right.
I feel like, Mitch talks about me being his backbone. Like he's Mitch is my yin to my yang. Like he brought me, I feel like God is intertwined with us. God comes first.
Oh yeah.
Mitch and I come second. Mitch to me comes second after God. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like he is, but what you see with Mitch is what you get. And I don't think that's necessarily true, unfortunately, especially with what we got with the internet. I don't think it's true. I mean, I don't think that's right the majority of the time. And I'm going to be honest, when I see people like going hard for their person or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I always have a question in my head, like, are you sure? Like, are you good? Because it is an investment of your time, and it's an investment of your life. Do you mean? So if you feel like that's your person, by all means commit, but don't always, like, I play devil's advocate with Mitch. Do you know what I mean? I was like, okay, this is what he's saying, but his actions back his shit up.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just like he's just saying these words, but I have a friend of mine that wrote to some guy in fucking pen pals or whatever it was, and he fucked her 1,000,000%. When he got out, he took every fucking thing she had, he fucked her life up, her kids got removed. Like, so I always feel like my story is not the norm.
Right.
Like, you have to be able to discern what is reality and what is because you want it to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you have to. I'm lucky. Do you know what I mean? I'm super lucky. And but I don't think everyone's story is like that. When I knew a person that wasted 45 years of her life.
No.
45. And when he got released, he was like, you know what? Fuck you. I think you're a piece of shit, and I don't want to be with you. And they had 3 kids together, late. And I was just like, honestly, if that was me, I probably would have gone to prison. If
Yeah.
like, for that, I'd have been just like, oh, hell to the no.
Yeah. At that point, I'm going to consider catching the case.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You know what I mean? I was just like, oh hell no. Do you mean so so my advice is that, you know what, if you're good with it and it is not an easy life. It's not. And but if you're committed and their actions speak what their words are saying, I would support you in any way that and I always say if people want just to talk or whatever, I'm happy to do that.
I can vouch for she is.
Yeah, it is really, it's not an easy situation to be in, and it's hard. And but that's, that also is just part of me, right? So it's not all of me. And based on what I said tonight, and again, when I did an interview initially with Louie a couple years ago, and it was really just about how Mitch and I met, and that, and I love Louie, he's fabulous. And but I was really willing, and Jen had asked me before we came on, she's like, what are you okay with talking about? And I was like, and Jen already knew this, and I was like, I'm okay with talking about all of it. And so I'm really grateful for the fact that women now, like I look at the comments from the men on your channel, like they're super supportive. They're good. They're not like, we live in a different climate now. And I'm grateful for that. Like and I feel like it was on some of our backs that got built. And I'm great. And I'm glad to know that. And what I mean by that is not like I'm unhappy with it. I'm happy by the fact that if what I went through changed something in society, how we talk about things, how we, then I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time I wouldn't talk about this. Like it was taboo. Like you just didn't talk about it. People didn't talk about it.
Yeah. I think that's awesome that you mentioned that, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, first of all, your situation, like you said, you spoke it. Your situation with your husband, with Mitch, is basically a unicorn situation. This is not typical. Okay.
I agree.
And I'm only speaking from the outside looking in. I haven't experienced this, but I have friends on both sides, friends that are saying they're taken advantage of. And I have friends that are saying, no, my loved one is taking care of me.
Right.
So I think that.
Yep. And I had this situation where Mitch took care of me. I mean, like Mitch, people be like, oh, you probably fucking send him money all the time and whatever. And I was like, actually, no, it is the opposite. I mean, like Mitch sent me money. I couldn't have gone on family visits. There was times I'd be like, dude, I only got $50. Do you know what I mean? I was a single mom. I had my own place. I worked at a law firm, and Mitch would send me money. Do you know what I mean? And he'd be like, well, I guess we're having fucking chicken. Do you know what I mean? We go on and so like chicken and rice or whatever. And so, and fucking jello. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever. Yeah. And I just feel like that's probably like, I just want people to be aware, like, don't be who you are as an individual, even if your dude is like on the other side, the 10, we're going to call them the 1%. If they are there, by all means, do your thing. Do you know what I mean? But just be who you are and be you, because you're not going to be able to be there for them if you can't be there for yourself. Like don't put your all in it. Do you know what I mean? Like be there and do that. But you know what? You're out here, and this is the world that we live in. Do you know what I mean? And so whether you have kids or don't have kids or whatever, you need to have, Mitch used to live vicariously through me, right? So he'd be like, go fucking camping, go fucking on a hike, go with your girlfriends on a whatever, go do whatever. And then he'd be like, what'd you guys do? And I'd be like, oh, we went for a hike, and I'd send them pictures, and I would whatever. So that's what connects them to the world.
Yeah.
Right. And even though they have cell phones now or whatever, it's still not the same as if you are non-active 1%. Okay, we're just gonna go with 10%. That's so. So I don't know. I just feel like it's just my thing is, you know what? There's lots of guys who are in there that can be supported, and there's lots of women out here can be supported, and I just feel like that's important in either way. And just because people seem like they're fine, that's not always the way that is. I promise you I'm good. But I mean, like, just know that you don't always, on the internet, we don't always know what people are going through. And so I think it's really important to make sure that we're supportive. And if people decide to reach out, like Jen and I have talked about, Jen and I really do feel like she's my sister. And we built because one thing that has existed through my adulthood is that I don't get really close to people. Like I'm kind of the loner, right? Like at work, right? I've had the same friends I've had since I was like 18. And that's
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like why doesn't anybody question the women? Why is it always about the men that get the blame when he walks away from the relationship? Because he's the convict.
I don't know.
What do you mean? I'm curious. What do you mean? Do you mean like women don't get questioned why they walk away? I'm curious.
Yeah, we'll find out right now.
By the way, I love watching her on your, like, I find her perspective really interesting. And so I think what she's saying is, and say if I'm wrong, is that women are not questioned why if they bounce out of that relationship with someone who's in prison, they don't get questioned.
Yeah, I'm kind of new to the. Huh?
Do you think that's what she's saying?
We'll find out right now. I'm a little new to the like prison wife or girlfriend.
Right. Yeah,
that's not my scene, but I do have friends in that. Scene.
Yeah.
There's probably 3 of you, including yourself, that are like solid, and including Life Without Parole, that you guys are like solid in your situation, your relationships.
Yeah.
But I do know some females. I do know a few that are in a lineup in certain guys' rosters. I'll just say that.
Yep. I know exactly. Yeah.
And then I do know it going likewise. Like some women that are like, yeah, you're my all, you're my everything. But when I see them out here in the streets,
that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
She asked me to run a background check on my website. I have copies available upon request. You know what though? So yeah, you know what? There was a lot of women who would be like, I'm out. Like and there's a lot of women. And the thing is though, this life is definitely not for the faint of heart. Like it is, and I understand it. And you know what? I get it. I get it why women are like, whether they're, most of the women that I knew that were married to someone that was in there, it wasn't like they went in being scandalous. They went in with good intentions, but they couldn't hang.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything that's terrible about that.
Right.
When a convict is a female, everyone always makes them out to be the bad. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Everything female has caused relationship. I agree 1,000,000%. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I'm sorry. What is her name? Well, Life Without Parole. What's her name?
Alba.
Yeah. That was me. Like, if people were like, I fucking told you so, like he was gonna, whatever. And I was like, but you don't understand the why. It wasn't because, I told this story before, but it was devastating. Like when Mitch came out, I hadn't seen him for a couple of weeks, and we'd been in these conversations about us staying together, not staying together. And he walked out, and he was at Tracy, and he walked out with his wedding ring, and he placed his wedding ring in front of me, and he walked away. Like, I was sitting there with nobody, like I was like, oh God, what do I do now? Because, you know, it's not you just walk out of there. You got to wait for someone to fucking let you out and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I sat in my car and I literally cried for like, I don't know, a good hour or whatever. And there was a lot of reasons for that between him and I that will remain between him and I. But the majority of that reason was because we knew that he wasn't going to get out, and they stopped our family visits, and it really did create a mission. I never had glass visits. We always had face-to-face visits, always. Okay. And so it really, you know, once they removed that, it really did something. It really fucking did something to us. I mean, and so, but the thing is that what you will understand is that you are obviously much younger than I am. And so what happens is that your relationship with that person will become either, it's going to go one of two ways, right? Yeah. It's either going to become stronger and it's enough for both of you, or it's not. And that's what typical relationships break down into. For those that you don't know, Mitch had a life sentence. He had 15 to life, and he did 38. So when you get to the point of when he went over 15 years and we knew he was never getting out, it does something. And it's not that you're not committed. It's not that you don't love that person. It just is. And you know, too, with fucking social media now, that's a whole different thing. I didn't have that. I mean, so we had letters and phone calls. We didn't have fucking video calls and fucking cell phones and, you know, all that shit. That is all pressure that's in a much different way. So, but I think for those of you that are committed and that find that, more power to you. And I'm supportive, because look where I ended up. And believe me, my Instagram is dreams come true, because I never thought, I thought he was going to die in there. That's what I thought. And I was petrified of that. So, so we don't always know how that's going to end up. And in my situation, it ended up well. And Mitch and I have had, you know, we work hard, and doing this YouTube thing was a fluke. We didn't expect it. And, but it's work. I mean, and so, I have a full-time job, Mitch is an artist. I mean, so we're constantly doing shit. Vampires will not cheat on you, and you will never give to worry about where he's at, and your friends will never see him having lunch or dinner with another female. You're right. And this is what I used to say. Being married to a man in prison is like being single and married at the same time. And what I mean by that is that your husband doesn't live with you. So people don't see that, right? So you go out with Mary from around the corner, you go out to dinner, and someone sees you, they're like, hey, she's single, even if she's wearing a ring. I mean, and so believe me, I've gotten to deal with that shit with Mitch being out. And what I mean by that is there's lots of women who don't care that he's married. They don't care that we've been together off and on since 1988. Trust and believe that shit goes both ways.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but yeah, that's what he made it, Julie, because he is a very strong resolve. Internal,
for sure, right?
Yeah, and Mitch has got a very firm spiritual background, and he is not just talk. It's not just lip service for him. That's something he really believes. So, yeah. I like your haircut, Julie, by the way.
Yes, I think she just got it done in the last week too. It looks good.
Yeah.
Good. You know what? That's something that reminded me of a question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
You are such a protector. Like, you're fiercely protective of the people you love and care about.
True.
Facts.
Yeah.
And I have benefited from that. So I appreciate it. So have you always been that way? Is that something that's just in you? What?
I've been loyal to a fault.
Yeah.
I really believe that I didn't have good examples of that when I was young, as I kind of expressed tonight. I feel like, I was raised in the generation when loyalty, respect, and love really meant something. Those words really meant something. It was not just about it was not, oh, that's so sweet. I do feel like that. I feel like he treats me like a queen, and I am so grateful. But I'm gonna say something that I'm just gonna speak my truth, which is we also sometimes don't know how to handle that. And my my modum operandus, my MO, is to sabotage it.
Yeah.
And I'm being totally honest. I mean, so
I appreciate it. I hear
yeah,
you.
so my thing in my young womanhood and my adulthood was that I would sabotage it. And so if somebody was nice to me and was decent to me, I would be like, I would pick you apart. I'd find something wrong with you, and I would bolt.
Yeah.
So I felt like with Mitch, he is understanding of my I don't even say apprehension of if I get bitchy. Like, I'm just gonna say it, like, if I'm just in a mood, I'm irritated, I'm short or whatever, he's very like, are you okay? But he also knows to give me my space. I mean, like, he's not all up in my shit, right?
Oh,
So he's
yeah.
he's like,
Yeah.
I love you from a distance. I'm gonna love you from over here and let you do whatever you're doing. And
Right.
but I feel like
Yeah.
you have to be open to that. Like, you have to be cognizant of what your baggage is.
Yeah.
If you're not, hi babe. You're gonna
Aw.
come say hi. Come say hi. Come say hi. Come on. Just say hi.
Hey. What's up?
How you doing?
That's right. The Mister.
The mister behind the missus.
That's right. Look at that. Look at it. Is that Chewy in the back or is that Rosie?
Yeah. Chewy.
What'd you get? So in essence, I feel like if you're both aware of that, but just be aware that if your usual game is that you're used to being treated like garbage and you're used to being whatever, then that's what you're used to. That's your norm. So when something comes outside of that norm, in some women, I'm not saying all of us are going to be like, I like it, but I'm going to stand. I don't know how to operate with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so you have to be open, and trust me, it took me till I was much older to kind of, no, can have your woman, girlfriend, wife, etc., unless the female gives them the green light. Yeah. No green lighting here. So I wish I had Mitch's patience. When your girl gets bitchy, I'm so quick to say, what's your fucking problem? Oh no, don't get it twisted. He will say that to me sometimes, not that way, but he'll just be like, what is your deal? Mitch can put me in check. But it's in a very, like, he knows me. Yeah. And so when he says shit like that to me, I will either say, what the fuck do you mean? What the fuck my problem is? Or I'm like, okay, like, I need to. So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I feel like that is the way I am. And you know what, to be honest with you, even in my relationships with my friendships with women, most of the women that have been my really close friends have all burned me. That is a real reality. As much as it pains me to even say that, that's the truth. But I would still come back for more.
What is wrong with us? I'm the same way. I've even said that like to people close to me, like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is like, it took me, you know, I'm 58. Like it took me, and it's funny because even the people that Mitch would point out and be like, what, like, are you really sure that you want to, you know, keep trying at that friendship? Because it seems to me that you are the one that's like taking the back seat and people take advantage. And
yeah,
it's true, because I'd be like, my thing is like, that's my friend. And if she needs help or he needs help, I'm going to do that. And even when I've been burned, I've done it again. Do you know what I mean? Because I just kind of look at what have I got to lose? Like if they, let's just say it was money, or let's say, and believe me, even in this venue, it's happened. Do you know what I mean? And people have asked me for things and I believe them and I do it. And then I feel like an idiot. Do you know what I mean? But because that's initially who I am, I'm going to believe you. I'm going to take what you say at face value. But if you burn me again, that is the difference between when I'm older, then I'm done. Like,
yeah, I can co-sign that. Like you definitely have that quality about you where you take people at face value, but don't try it.
Yeah.
Don't try me again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just, you know, it is just, I give you a lot of respect because your interview with Jen, you mentioned how colleagues and friends would look at Mitch differently and you were not having it. And that's a real great one. And you know what? It wasn't easy then. Thank you, Colton. That's like, it was it was definitely a deal. You know, and when you're 22 years old, I was definitely influenced by people. Totally. I didn't say that now. I mean, and so, you know, people would be like, it would make me question, not question Mitch, but it would make me question the situation. Do you mean, you know, and, but I was just like, you know, there was a reason I didn't tell my friends. I married him. And then I was like, hey, guess what I did? I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear that. Babe, babe, will you give me some water? Wow, did you hear that? He said no.
I can hear you.
So anyways, but yeah, and that's what you know, that thing, I see you, you see me, and we see each other. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that is you. Like, I see myself in you. And I will always be here to help people. I will always be here to support people, women, men. But I have a real thing that I have always loved kids, and I've always, you know, I always wanted them. And I was always the one that people would drop their kids off with me because I just love them. I mean, and I think part of that is because they are who they are, and they don't judge, and they don't, and you know, I love when my grandkids look at me and they are, I love being a grandma, and I love, you know, that fact that I have a really great relationship with my daughter, and that she's a successful individual. But I also, have a really big empathy for kids out there that don't have parents, that don't have a adult they can rely on, feel secure with. That is my Achilles heel.
Okay. Yeah.
Come on.
You got your water?
So I feel like that is just, you know, it needs to start young. Like, and what I mean by that is like that saying like you're worth something.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when you have a mentor or whatever it is that's in your life, it's important. Like, it's like, I didn't realize how important that was to me until I got older. I was really lucky to have a grandma who loved me. I was really lucky to have mentors. I was really lucky to have some stand-up individuals in my life that were good people, Some of them were popular. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, you know what I mean? Like people would be like, no, I'm not gonna sell it to you, but I will house you under my roof. I will help you, whatever. Some of the people I least expected to really matter in my life really still to this day matter to me. Okay. So anyways, I just, it's important. Be a mentor, be there for the young ones, because you know what, we grow up to be adults, and it's not just thank you. It's not just moments, and I really being grandpa, I would do anything for them. Yeah. I feel the same way.
Right. I just want to say, I'm going to try not to be a sissy. You have been a wonderful sister to me, a mentor. When I call you and bug the crap out of you or send you a text, oh my God, what does this mean? You answer me.
Oh, that's so sweet. So I will tell you guys that at one point, Jen and I will do a live with us being in the same room.
Yeah.
We've just been waiting for that, and our lives have just got be there or be square. But I want to thank everybody who came from Heart Intentions to Jen, because she's a real one. And all those who haven't, I'm just, saying, I'm not making a separation, but I know real when I see it. And that is one of the advantages that age gives me, is that I am really proud to call her my sister, and she's doing amazing shit with this channel, and I knew she would. And she's got a voice where not always people have one. And Jen kept telling me, you need to do your own channel. And I was like, nope. I was like, I don't got time. I don't got time for that. And so I just she's an amazing individual. And oh my God, babe. I
was afraid to ask.
Oh, that is gross. I'm not eating that.
You want to sit in the room, a small room, with my 120-pound bulldog for a minute?
I can smell it. Like, are you throwing that right now?
Yeah.
Oh, that is disgusting.
Oh my gosh.
That is so nasty. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's left over from my road trip.
Leftover from his road trip. Yes.
Scared of that. Shut up and have fun.
Anyways, you're doing amazing shit on here, and I thank you for the opportunity. It's kind of therapeutic, and it's kind of to talk about it and things I haven't talked about in a long time. And I just want to thank everybody who took the time to come in tonight and check it out. And thank you, Jen, for having me on and being my sister. Appreciate it.
Yes, you guys, hang tight. We appreciate you tapping in. We will do this again. Remember to always keep your heart convicted, stay humble, show compassion. That's all I can say. And I appreciate you, my sister.
You do all that, Jen. I love you.
Love you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for giving me the time.
Good night.
Appreciate it. Good night.
Good night.